What's up, everyone, on Educate, Inspire, Change, Facebook land? My name is Josh Trent, and Kasim and I are here to talk about plant medicine through a lens of personal growth. Kasim, thank you so much for having me on the channel, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you. This is the first time I've appeared live on my own page as well, so it's been a long time coming. So thank you for joining me and sharing this opportunity with me.
You know what? This has come from a pretty unique journey. Like, you and I have talked multiple times about rhythmia. I've been seeing a lot of powerful content on Educate, Inspire, Change about plant medicine.
Yeah, man.
And really what this was today was an idea that came to us organically in a conversation. And if you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. You know, Educate, Inspire, Change reaches the entire planet.
Yeah.
So you guys, if you're watching this right now, like, let us know where you're coming in from. And of course, as we're talking today, if you have questions, we want this to be an open, live, really cool forum. So if you have anything that you're curious about, just let us know, type it in the comments, and I'll make sure to ask the really good questions that you ask. But Kasim, let's start here, man. Costa Rica, the only medically licensed place in the world, the very first one to certify plant medicine. Like, what even got you interested in plant medicine in the first place?
To be honest with you, it's by chance. I mean, I think they invited me 2 years ago, and I flat declined initially. I didn't really understand what plant medicine was. I didn't know what ayahuasca was. So obviously it planted the seed in my head. I then kind of was watching a lot of podcasts by people like Joe Rogan, Duncan Trussell, and whatnot. And I started to hear a lot about DMT and ayahuasca and the spirit molecule. So I put two and two together. I started researching it more and more. And I think about a year later, after watching hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of documentaries and videos and podcasts, I was ready to really take the plunge. So I emailed Rhythmia back, asking if the opportunity was still there. And I'm really happy that they said yes. That was around November last year. So I went in March of 2019 this year. And so that gave me kind of 5 months to kind of mentally prepare for the journey. So I took it very seriously. I dieted in the right way. I really looked after my body. I had the right intentions, all kind of geared towards having the best possible journey I could. And then just in March, not long ago, a month ago exactly, nearly till this week, last month, was when I was there, and I embarked on the journey.
Yeah, and the cool part is that you traveled across the planet. Like, this is not a journey for the faint of heart. And it's been so great. It's been so great to get to know you, like understanding the impact that Educate, Inspire, Change makes across the globe, and seeing how many people are here on this channel to consume this conscious content. For people that might not know you, man, I mean, this is a cool opportunity for people to get to know you, you know, the founder of this movement. What really was the fire for you to begin this? When did you start Educate, Inspire, Change? And what does it mean to you?
Well, okay. So 8 to 9 years ago, I was going through a hard time in my personal life. I had a young son, and I was locked in some kind of hard court battle over custody. So this kind of sent me into a little bit of depression. I was kind of lost. I didn't really know whether I was coming or going. And it took me a few years to actually first see my son. So this was obviously a very emotional time for me, an emotional moment. And the night after I came home from seeing him, I kind of accepted that I wouldn't see him very often. And so I said to myself, what can I do that will show him what I stand for? What can I do that in years to come, you can see this is what his dad stands for? So I just literally wrote down a few words on my laptop: educate yourself, inspire others, change the world. This is what I stand for. I was, against poverty, against racism, against war, wanted to raise awareness on certain issues that I cared about. And I started to share content on this Facebook page. It built up very, very slowly. I mean, very slowly, like 10 fans every few days. It reached 100 and I was hyped, you know.
And now it's at like 3 million.
Now it's at 3 million, yeah. So it just grew itself. And I think 2 years after making the page is when I actually went full time into Educate, Inspire, Change. I was able to leave my job and just focus all my energy on sharing the truth.
What are the types of things that people write in on? Because I know we're talking about plant medicine today and how it can actually heal the human. There's hundreds and hundreds of studies coming out. It seems like almost every week, man, where somebody's getting some type of a psychological, emotional, really a spiritual breakthrough. Because this is why we're here to talk about this. But when you looked at actually going, and what did you pull from Educate, Inspire, Change? Like, did you know anything about the center before you and I connected, before you had done any research? Like, how did you actually hear about it?
I mean, I knew about ayahuasca, so I'd studied about plant medicine, but I didn't know about rhythmia itself. I think I heard a few people mention it in passing. I just assumed it was one of those little places in the middle of a jungle where you go and there's maybe 2 or 3 people and you take medicine with them kind of in a hut. I didn't have any idea about the resort, the level of infrastructure they have, the number of staff they have, the kind of how developed and how amazing it's organized, you know. So I didn't really know what to expect, obviously. And when they invited me, I did look on their website and it really gave me an idea as to just how advanced they were. But even when I went there, I was totally blown away by just how amazing the place was, you know. Everything from start to finish, from the minute you get off the plane to the minute you get back on the plane, they really take care of all your needs, you know. So it was a fantastic experience, and I felt really, really safe. One of the big concerns people come to me is saying, were you scared? How safe is it? And I have to say, I've never felt safer in my life. I feel safer there than I do in my own home, because you're in this beautiful place, surrounded by these beautiful people. It's such a beautiful energy. Everyone's vibrating so high. You really feel like you're at home there. You know, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah. We had a question from David. He said, plant medicines can be used for diabetics. David, we actually refer all medical questions, I always do, to Dr. Jeff McNary. He is a complete educational, academic, spiritual badass. Not only is he certified as a practitioner, as a physician, he can answer all your questions. So we'll make sure we link that in the notes here. But just to reiterate too, when we say plant medicine, Kasim, I think people get confused. It's not like just ashwagandha. You know, we're not taking little pills to give us better digestion. How do you see plant medicine in your life now? You know, you're back, and we'll dig into that, your story, your journey of arrhythmia, but coming home, like, what's it been like?
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I really struggled. I'm now 4 to 5 weeks after coming back. So obviously when you've gone through such a transformational experience, you expect to come home and just to dive straight into this new life, you know, full of optimism for the future. But what you don't realize is I've changed a lot, but people around me and the things around me haven't changed. So it's very hard for me, it was anyway, to adjust straight back into it. You know, it was almost kind of too overwhelming. I feel like I would have benefited greatly from some kind of counseling or whatnot as to how to adjust back into normal life, you know, because I came back and I was flying on cloud 9, you know, and everyone here is just kind of the same. And it's very hard to also explain what I'd just been through to people that don't have any experience with ayahuasca. So to try to kind of engage with people the way I was in rhythmia was very hard here. So I found it a bit overwhelming. Before I left Rhythmia, I was dieting very well. I was training regularly. I was quite healthy. Coming back from Rhythmia, I kind of fell back into some bad routines, some bad habits, and I started to feel guilty about them. So like that was something that happened to me. But like fast forward 3 or 4 weeks where I am now, and I think I had to go through that. I had to go through that period of transition where I had to experience those bad habits, you know, do those things that maybe weren't so in line with me now, and I had to realize that they weren't for me anymore. And where I am now is I now don't feel the urge to go back into those bad habits, and I don't feel the need to do it, but I had to do it again just to kind of show myself that it's no longer for me, it no longer serves me, you know. Also last week I had the urge to speak to people that I haven't spoken to in many years, so family members and close friends that perhaps we've hurt each other in the past, you know, broken relationships where it's hard to forgive, hard to let go, and hard to ask for forgiveness. So that's one of the things I done last week. Was I actually spoke to people who are very dear to me for many years that I've kind of fell out with, and I forgave people that I couldn't forgive before, and I also asked people to forgive me, and it was probably the best healing week of my life, just that last week there, you know, being able to have relationships again with people that I previously there was no hope for, you know. So like that's the medicine still working in me 4 weeks later, you know, and I can really feel the benefits now starting to take effect. And I'm just really, really thankful and grateful every day.
Dude, you bring up a powerful point, because anyone that's watching this, if you've ever explored plant medicines in any regard, whether it's legal in your place or not, like, let us know. Obviously, don't self-incriminate yourself, but in places that it's legal, has anyone watching here explored plant medicine before? And it could be psilocybins. And Angel says, plant medicine saved my life. Angel, how did it save your life? Because we're going to talk about this right now, like how plant medicine is saving people's lives. There was multiple people in my journey when I went to Rhythmia, and they had not just catharsis, but true visceral healing, to where they would go back and integrate over the next 12 months and they said very similar things that you said, Kash, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I got home, it was so crazy. I was different, but my environment was the same.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so it became so overwhelming for them. And I felt it too. I think a lot of people, they come back to the 3D world. And I
Yeah.
get this sense, man, I'd love what you think about this. I'd love to hear what you think. We learn in the 4D world and in the 5D, we go to the medicine so that we can get the truth. And the
Mm-hmm.
truth is actually what we bring back home to the 3D. Now, the
Very much.
integration of that truth in the 3D, it might be challenging, but we know it's true because we felt it. We just felt
Yes.
it in a different D. What do you think
Yes.
about that, man?
Yeah, 100%. That brings me to something. I was born and raised a Muslim, yeah. So I was taught with all these kind of laws and rules, and then in my early to mid 20s, I kind of stepped away from religion. I became a spiritual person, but also a bit of an atheist as well, and that I needed proof, I needed evidence. What I would say about this journey is I felt I was in direct contact with the divine, you know, like, and I came back, think, feeling more religious than I've ever felt in my life, but I just don't need to label it, you know. So like the information, the experiences I had over there in this 5D world, like you say, really almost took me full U-turn. You know, it was almost like the path I needed to take to really be close to God or source or energy or whatever you want to call it, you know. So I think that's one of the big lessons I've taken from this, you know, is when you experience things for yourself and you see that there is something else out there other than what we know and feel here in the 3D world, then it really just unlocks your third eye and opens your mind to a whole new world of possibilities, you know. I mean, it makes you realize,
Yeah.
I mean, magic is real, man. I experience it, we live it, we are magic, and it's just an amazing feeling to be able to look at my kids and say that to them with real honesty, you know. Like before, you know, we're children and we're born thinking magic is real. Then all of a sudden things happen around us, people get mistreated, you see kind of war and famine and poverty, and you start to think the world's not magical, there's just kind of bad people and bad energy, and we have to fight against it to be good, you know. But this really makes me feel that the world is a magical place, that there's good energy everywhere. It's just all a matter of perception. Heaven and hell exists inside you, and it's all a case of how you look at yourself, how you love yourself. And that's one of the big takeaways for me from my experience at Rhythmia.
Man, thank you for sharing that, because I'm feeling very, very similar in that mirror of when I came back, the challenge wasn't really with other people. It was inside of me, what choices I was making to relate to those people. Because like you said, we come back home, we have our 4D, 5D experience, and then we get back here, and the real work, like the real effing work, is to come back here and integrate. And this is why I think it's so powerful, man. I'd love to talk about tools with you, because yes, there's Jamie Wheel, where he has like the microdosing component, where he talks about doing the hedonic calendaring system, but breath work. You know, there's powerful breath work at Rhythmia with Christian Minson. And I actually have been doing some breath work that I learned in Thailand with Soma. Have you been doing any breath work since you got home? I think this is one of the tools that people can use to integrate.
Yeah. Again, I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've focused on that enough. When I was at Rhythmia, having the 4 days of ayahuasca ceremony really took a lot out of me. So I think on the Friday, which was the day after all the ceremonies, when we were asked to go to breathwork class, my head was in a different place, you know? So like I was just wanting to kind of take everything in that I'd been through, and I was just kind of trying to enjoy my time out. So I went to a breathwork class. I did spend half an hour following the guidance of the breathwork. I think it was Christian Minson. But then after half an hour, I left. And I really regret that now, because I've heard people talk about how breathwork has kept them very close to that level of frequency, to that vibration, to the medicine since they've left Rhythmia. And obviously you're a big advocate for breathwork yourself. So it's definitely something I need to look into more, and I want to learn a bit more. I've done it once since I've been home, and I need to get into the routine of doing it more and more, you know. But like I've seen people get really intense journeys and intense visuals, and I've seen people kind of start screaming at the end of a breathwork class, and it's really intense to watch. So I understand how powerful it can be, you know.
Man, I love that you said that, because, and I also love how honest you are. You know, we're talking to all these people that have been following Educate, Inspire, Change for years. And this is why I think they follow, is because they want the damn truth as well. Like, we're all here to just get to the truth as quickly as possible. Can I get an amen if you're watching this? Like, just give us the hand signal. Like, let us know if that resonates with you, because there's a guy that I want to connect you with, and his name is Paul Chek. He's the godfather of wellness. And he says, when you're listening to a conversation like you and I are having, and it feels so true, when our subconscious mind hears something that feels true, it sticks to our soul.
Yes.
When somebody says something that has the weight of truth, it sticks to our soul. And like,
Yes.
that's why this long form content's coming back. That's why conversations like this people want to hear,
Yeah,
because there's a starvation of truth out there. And this is what Educate, Inspire, Change is all about, man. And Angela actually says plants have the energy and wisdom of the Pachamama. That means they have the power to heal any aspects of the person, body, mind, and soul. Dude, did you have any conversations with ayahuasca as a feminine power?
Oh man, I had lots and lots of very intense experience with what I think was ayahuasca. It was more visual as opposed to verbal. I definitely had lots of strong visuals with ayahuasca. Even at one point, I would say there was a snake lying next to me.
You saw a snake?
As clear as I can see you in front of me, and it was kind of white, yellow, huge, just staring at me, you know. And at the time, obviously, I was very kind of anxious about the snake next to me. So I didn't really make strong eye contact with it. Whereas I know now, if I was to go back and see the same snake, I would really want to connect. But at that time, I was making an effort to kind of look away. I checked if it was still there. It was still there. It wasn't going anywhere, but I wasn't really connecting. So I think some people have told me that's ayahuasca saying hello to you, just testing the water. Other people have said to me it might be your power animal. Like as a snake, so it's hard to differentiate between them. Like I also saw panthers, so like there's so much visuals I can go on. I also saw what I think is called machine elves, which are what a lot of people claim to see when they're under the influence of DMT. So like I experienced what people call cosmic surgery, which is when you can feel other beings, whether you want to call them aliens or elves or entities or angels, whatever you want to call them. They were hovering over me. They were looking in my mouth. Also, I was having a conversation with them at points, and that was really, really, really intense, scary, but also beautiful. And I think it took me like days and days to take all this stuff in to really understand the messages they were trying to give to me. And it came through the form of revelations, you know. I'd be talking to someone a day later or 2 days later, and then something would just click in my head, you know. And I'd be like, oh, that's why I saw this, or that's why I heard this. And so I was downloading information during the ceremony. I was taking it all in, but I wasn't able to fully understand it until the following days and weeks, you know.
Yeah. And this is why we're talking about, if you're just tuning in to this conversation, we're talking about plant medicine through a lens of personal growth, which is like why all these men and women are here with Educate, Inspire, Change. It's the same thing we believe at Wellness Force. We're all like learning and discovering this intelligence, yet this innate intelligence has been in our bodies, in our hearts for millennia. And all we're doing, I'd love to get your take on this, man. Don't you think all we're doing with plant medicine is we're going back to the remembrance process of who the hell we are, how awesome we are, how powerful we are? This isn't like just excited Tony Robbins talk. We're amazing human beings. We're a miracle. It's 400 trillion to one that we're even here, dude.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And you know, it's since the Industrial Revolution, since the kind of creation of technology, that humans have really stepped away from nature and stepped away from knowing themselves, stepped away from spirituality. And I think that's what plant medicine is doing, is it reminds us that we are nature. It reminds us that we're here to do more than just work 9 to 5, pay bills and get married and then die, you know. We are just the fact that we're having this conversation, you know, the fact that we're on this rock in space talking to each other through these kind of skin-covered skeletons, you know, it's a miracle in itself, you know. And ayahuasca is almost like knocking us in the head saying, hello, like wake up, you know. And for me, it was very, very much a wake-up call, you know. Although I was aware of consciousness, of spirituality, but ayahuasca really, really shoves it down your throat, you know. It just gives you the shake that you need, and it's such a powerful medicine, you know. And it's been around for 5,000 years, and it's been practiced for generations and generations, and it's only in the last maybe couple 100 years where it's gone kind of underground, and Western society has kind of, you know, ignored it. But like I'm glad that it's coming back through people like Joe Rogan and you know, the internet and YouTube and all these people talking about it. It's becoming much more mainstream now, and I'm just so happy, and I'm really, really optimistic for the future now, you know.
Me too.
For the first time, I'm excited for my kids to grow up in this planet, you know. But before this ayahuasca journey, although I was an optimist, I was still concerned about the future. Where are we going? But as long as I know ayahuasca is going to be, and it is going to grow exponentially now, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it's a mission of mine, it's a mission of yours to really expose this plant to the world now, you know. And that's just me and you. I can imagine people going to Rhythmia every week and leaving wanting to tell the whole world about their story, you know, and that's only
Yeah.
going to grow and grow and grow now for years and years to come. And in 50 years' time, I would like to think that this is a normal practice, you know, just the way 18-year-olds can now go to the pub and drink alcohol. It should
Yeah.
be 18-year-olds can now go and experience the divine through a medicine, you know. There's no addictive qualities, there's no harmful chemicals, it's just pure
Yeah, and
medicine.
it's from plants. And the crazy
Yeah.
thing about this too, man, I'm sure you know the history. There
Yeah.
are two vines, the
Yes.
ayahuasca vine and the trichruna vine. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone's watching and they're like, "What exactly is this thing?" It's a
Yeah.
tea. It's an ancient sacred tea that you drink under the calm and safe supervision of a
Yes.
legal facility. I'm not saying everyone should be doing this, and you have a lot of content on your website that talks about
Yes.
the precautions, the process.
Yes.
So you guys can go to Educate, Inspire, Change to learn more. But the big piece for me has been when I got home, unfortunately, 2 days ago, I found out that my mom has stage 3, 4 kidney disease.
So sorry to hear that, bro.
And it really hit me so hard. And I just allowed myself to cry, you know, and I was just feeling, and I was like, I actually had this moment where I was still talking to ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, like, what's this all about? And and this is like 2 nights ago. And she said that everything's designed to bring you back to love.
Yeah.
And it was in a dream that I had. And I
Wow.
realized that this is why it's so powerful for you and I to do this work. Like, if people forget how powerful they are, unfortunately, my mom, she forgot, man. She forgot how powerful she was.
Yeah.
And she stopped taking care of her body for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I know, like, if anybody's watching this and you have somebody that you've lost that's close to you, or you're dealing with trauma right now, or there's something coming up in your nervous system where, when I told you about my mom, like, we don't know what the hell is going on. You know, we don't know how long she's going to be around. We're going to do our best. But this medicine can help. It gave me such radical emotional intelligence, man. It allowed me to, instead of being angry and flying off the handle, it allowed me to just feel my emotions. I think really what it was for me was just permission slip, a permission slip to be radically honest with myself about how I'm feeling. And you know, it's great. I've had so many friends reach out to me, and I've had great conversations with friends. And yeah, I actually didn't know we were going to talk about this. It's just kind of heavy on my heart right now.
So good, brother.
So yeah.
I'm here for you, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think people can understand that sometimes things happen in life that there's no explanation for. And my sense is that, especially with the downloads from the medicine, my sense is that when these things happen that are extremely traumatic, they're just happening to remind us that everyone goes through adversity. And that's kind of our soul contract on the planet, is to go through this adversity.
Yeah,
and
man.
the only thing that's going to bring us together is how we respond and how we love each other when the adversity raises its head. I think that's basically it, man.
Yeah. And see, another thing, while we're talking about possible terminal illness and death and all this kind of topic, during my ayahuasca ceremony, I felt like I had a death and a rebirth. I feel like my consciousness was switched off, and it was a very, very scary experience, because when it switched off and then switched on again, I couldn't remember how long I had been switched off for. You know, if it could have been 100 years, 1,000 years, or 1 day or 1 minute, I really had no concept of time, you know. So it was very scary for me. And my way of making myself feel better was I kept reminding myself that I have children, you know. I was like, if I'm dead, then I can't see my children anymore. So this, you know, this can't happen. I kept saying it loud, I love my children, and it made me feel like I was dying and then reborn again, you know. But the next day, what I felt was, I felt no fear for the other side, because I felt like I had been there. So like, I felt like I had experienced what people experience when they die, you know. There's a realm where you go where there is no now or tomorrow or yesterday. It's forever, always. And so time doesn't exist in this realm. And it's very hard for us humans to understand that concept or wrap our brain around it. But when you actually experience it, you lose the ability to think. So you're no longer thinking at all. You're just aware. You are awareness, and there's no time. So you're aware of everything, and it's a very scary, overwhelming experience, and we don't know how to deal with that, you know. So all I would say is, if I had anyone close to me who was close to death, or if I knew I was going to die, the fear would go, because I now have, in myself, I have confidence that there is somewhere else they go. Their experience will still live on, and where they go, time doesn't exist. So they won't mourn for us, you know. They won't miss us, because for them, it's always tomorrow, yesterday, and now. Do you understand? And even this is actually taught in some religions, like the Quran, if I remember correctly, taught me that when you die, time doesn't exist. People travel at the speed of light. So time stops. So don't worry about the dead. They're okay. You know, they're not going to sit there for all eternity mourning their kids or their family or their loved ones, because they've moved on to a higher place where there's more important things to worry about or care about, or do you understand? So it makes me feel confident now, and maybe that might resonate with you somewhat. And even if someone passes on, just be happy. I now want to celebrate life. If someone dies, I want to celebrate their life and celebrate their death. There should be a celebration of their life, and to celebrate where they're going to be. They're going to a higher place, you know, and that should be a party, dude. That shouldn't be reason to mourn. The only reason why we mourn is because we feel like, from a selfish point of view, from their ego point of view, your ego now misses that connection. You're missing that physical reality where they're next to you, you know. But if you know this person that you love more than anything in the world is closer to God, is closer to source, is closer to these beings that can really guide them and show them, then isn't that a better place for them to be? You know.
Absolutely.
And so if you can be the same way in relationships, you know, and the reason why so many relationships don't work, and girlfriend boyfriend or girlfriend whatever, because you have to own them. But if you can let someone be free, and they then love you back and you love them, that's the best type of relationship, you know. So I think the same can be compared to death. If you can just let somebody go and be happy that they're in a better place, then you can really nurture that relationship and be in a better place, and they'll be in a good place and you'll be in a good place as well, you know. You both benefit from that perception.
Oh man, I want to let that land for a moment. Can we just take a deep breath together? I know that the men and women watching this felt that, because I'm not the only one. Like I'm not the only one that's dealing with the potential loss of someone, because guess what? There ain't no ticket on this planet forever. Okay. we all get off the planet at some point. So I think for me to echo what you shared, man, just being at Rhythmia, having a death experience. Last year, I almost died, and I ran up to Candice and I was like, promise me no one's ever died here. I was like shaking her, like, promise me no one's ever died at Rhythmia. And she's like, it's okay. It's an ego death. People talk about ego death in the ancient scriptures in many different religions, the death of the ego. I don't think we have to kill the ego completely, but in our society, the entire structure, especially in America, and I know in London too, the whole society is fed to people's egos. You're not good enough, buy this clothing piece, buy a more expensive car. You guys, everything that we do on a daily basis, whether we're aware of it or not, and that's why we're doing more consciousness work, is from a place of ego. And I'm not saying the ego is the enemy. The ego is actually like an amigo. You know, the ego is a friend. But at the same time, this consciousness work, like when we're talking about plant medicine through a lens of personal growth, it's because we're actually letting go of the ego and we're stepping into our heart. And for me, like dying, it was painful. Yes, I actually died, and I felt like, oh, well, I saw my grandpa, I saw my grandma. I realized that you and I are this incredibly lucky starseed that's planted here. We're one layer in millions of years of evolution. And guess what? After us, there's going to be all kinds of millions of years of evolution as well. So really the biggest piece for me, man, is gratitude. It's a gratitude process. And I think that's what this is really all about. This is why I'm so grateful to talk to you. Because when someone listens to this, they're going to feel educated, inspired, and changed. This is the whole point, man. This is the whole freaking point. What do you think about gratitude, the gratitude practice in your life?
Like, that's something I've been practicing for the last couple of years, I have to be honest. Every day I make a point of saying out loud, thank you, whether it's to myself, whether it's to the universe, whether it's to God, whatever it might be. I just make a point of being grateful. Every day I look at my children lying in bed and I just say a thank you. And I even verbalize it, because I really believe the power of sound makes a big difference. So it's important to have the confidence to speak out loud what you're thankful for, you know. Some people want to mumble or speak inwards, which is fine. But if you're confident enough to say out loud what your ambitions are, what your goals are, what your dreams are, what you're thankful for, then it really puts that message out into the universe with real strength and conviction, you know. So like I make an effort every day just to say out loud, thank you for my health, thank you for my children, thank you for Mother Ayahuasca, thank you for this journey. And I really feel that since I started this practice 2 years ago, my life has just been in an upward trajectory, you know. And I don't think it's by coincidence. I think by saying things out loud, you're putting that thought back into your head, you know, and you're putting it out into the universe. And it's just a really powerful, powerful thing. And that's actually going to be my next tattoos. I'm going to have Forever Grateful tattooed across my chest. That's how strongly I feel about it, you know. Just gratitude is the highest form of thought, you know. If you can live from a place of gratitude, then you're living in the highest possible frequency, man.
I love this. And I'm going to send to your organization. There's a study by David Hawkins, and it's the frequency scale of emotion. And you may have already heard of this, but shame is actually the lowest frequency on the planet. Yeah. So when someone is in shame, you know, our parents shame us. If somebody's watching this and your parents have ever shamed you when you're a kid and you have a sense that that shame is still with you, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing the plant medicine work, because this frequency scale going up, you know, shame is 100. You go up the scale, then there's like joy, acceptance, ecstasy, love. And at the top, there's pure consciousness. But quantifying emotion, we live in a world of logical, analytical people that science is great and we love science, but science actually stemmed from spirituality. And it's funny, Jacques Morel says, hey guys, I always thought to myself, if I could be a rock, a plant, or a tree, or a grain of sand, but I ended up being a human. Gratitude. So he's at like 600 on the emotional scale. Thanks for saying that, Jacques.
Thank you. What about Paul's comment about why do you call it mother when it's the father?
Yeah.
I think an interesting way is to look at the planet. I look at nature as feminine energy, Mother Earth. And people say, treat the heaven like your father, the mother like the earth like your mother, and every animals, plants, and humans like your brothers and sisters, you know. And I think that's a really beautiful way to look at the universe, you know. And I really get the sense that the planet and nature is a female. I mean, Mother Ayahuasca, we call it that because during the ayahuasca ceremony, we come across really strong female symbols, strong women, serpents, animals that have strong female energy, you know, and it really resonates deeply with me, you know. And I think if we look after the planet the way we would look after our own mother, then that would be the world's problem solved right there, you know. If we just took better care of ourselves, being healthier, and took better care of the environment and our planet, then all the problems would eventually just solve themselves, you know.
And I feel like really this is a deep honoring of the feminine, because I love the way you even said that you fueled the creation of Educate, Inspire, Change because of your family. Like that became an honoring of the feminine, because we can't get children if there's not a feminine. It doesn't work any other way. So the divine feminine is always in us, and that is a big piece of the plant medicine. But I think people get confused. Like when you and I are talking right now and we're talking about plant medicine as a feminine energy, that energy lives in both men and women. So I don't want people to get confused. Like as we heal ourselves, as we up level our consciousness, it's the connection to both the masculine and the feminine inside of us that society has really shamed men. Like you and I having emotional conversations, like these intelligent emotional conversations, 30 years ago, we would have been called pussies, weirdos, hippies. Now we're changing the world, man. So how do you see this paradigm unfolding?
It's funny you see that. You know, I was in when I was in Rhythmia, and I was talking to my friend next to me, and I'd just been through some really hardcore journey, and I think it was Mitra, one of the shamans, you know, and he was wearing his feathers, and I was saying, you know, that's a real gangster, you know, like we talk about gangsters and people with guns and like who can shoot people. I go, he's a spiritual gangster. He's a spiritual gangster, you know, like he's made it his life's work just to help and heal people, you know. And I was looking at him there, and he looks so he's a perfect combination of strong and power, and like humble and kind and soft, you know, all in one. And I was saying to my friend, that's a real gangster, you know. This man's made it his life's purpose to heal. And look at him, man. I would do anything for him. I would follow him into battle anywhere he went, you know, not out of fear, out of love, you know. If you can get people to follow you and people to listen to you out of love, then that's a real bond that can never be broken, you know. Anything related to fear and on that kind of scale of things. So I think that's what feminine energy brings to us. It brings us that ability to love, to talk about love, to hug each other without feeling awkward, and to really, like, I'm very comfortable now with the femininity in me, and I'm happy to talk about it. I'm happy to say I love you to men. I'm happy to hug men, whereas maybe as little as a couple of years ago, it felt really awkward for me just to even hug my own family members would have been awkward for me. Whereas now
Mm.
in Rhythmia, I was hugging men I just met for the first time, and it was a real embrace, you know. It was like a
Yeah.
loving embrace. It was a sharing of energy. I mean, there was people I met on that journey that would put their hand on my heart. They would ask me to breathe with them, and I'd never met these people before, you know. That kind of level of connection, that level of energy, and that level of love, was just unheard of previously in my life, you know. And I'm so
And I
thankful.
think the crazy part about this is that it's always here now. Like you and I
Mm,
could go out in our lives for the rest of the day. Anyone watching this can go out, they can choose right now
hmm
to just be that connected.
Yeah,
And it can happen in the snap of two fingers. And I
yeah,
think what happens is here in the 3D, and we talked about integration earlier, here in the 3D world, there is so much energy swirling around that actually blocks connection.
yes,
And really, I have a sense that this medicine and breath work and many tools with the plants is helping people drop those blockages. It's almost
yes,
like, I don't know if you've ever been to Burning Man or you saw the statue of the
yeah.
two huge wire statues of
Mm,
adults
okay.
with their backs turned towards one another. And then on the inside, it's two
I've,
children wanting to
yeah,
hug.
yeah. I've seen that's a
I mean,
powerful, powerful. Yeah,
that right there is exactly what we're talking about,
yeah,
man. And
yeah.
yeah.
So while you're on the subject, obviously, like something that felt very strong to me was when Jerry Powell is now a great friend of mine. His story of how he found the medicine really struck a chord with me. Because he spoke about how we're all born connected to our soul. We're all children. We're all pure. No one's born a racist. No one's born full of hate. No one's born wanting to harm themselves. Everyone's born full of love, just wanting to create and enjoy and give and not take. Yeah. But then what happens is that throughout childhood, things happen to us or around us. We either witness abuse or we suffer from abuse. It could be something as little as watching your mother and father argue or seeing someone harm an animal or anything that slightly separates your soul from you. You then see evil, if you like to call it, or you see kind of negative energy, and you start to lose faith in humanity. And then, so you distance yourself from your soul. This then manifests itself as you grow up into things like self-harming, whether it's being in unhealthy relationships, attracting the wrong partner, whether it's alcoholism or drug abuse or just being generally not nice to yourself, you know. So you gradually separate from your soul as you get older. You then start to lose faith and you forget who you are, you forget why you're here, you get a job, you have to work hard, you struggle, you see pain, you see misery, and all this energy, even the media feeds that misery, all this energy around you just separates you from your soul. And that's what this medicine does. It reminds you who you were. And what I felt like was physically, I was walking about Rhythmia when I was in the middle of a ceremony, and I was wandering around the garden and the grass, and I was looking at people cry. I was looking at people kind of standing, and I thought to myself, we all look like young children walking around as if we were just seeing things for the first time, you know. And it
Yes,
made me feel
yes.
like we were all just like children, you know. Some were crawling, some were standing, some were on their knees, some were being sick, some were crying, and I thought this is what a nursery would look like, you know, full of children just learning about the world. And so that for me was really, really powerful. I felt like we were all just being connected to our childlike souls, and we're doing it in front of each other, fully exposed. And such a powerful experience, and that's what I feel happened to me during those 4 ceremonies. Was my soul was getting closer and closer to me, and I now feel like I don't want to harm myself. I now feel like I'm looking at myself as if I'm a 4-year-old boy, you know. And how would I treat that 4-year-old boy? Would I send him out at the weekend into a party full of drugs and alcohol? No. Would I
Yeah.
send him into an unhealthy relationship with a girl that either abuses him or uses him or lies to him? No. Would I treat him with love, feed him well, and cuddle him unconditionally and care for him and speak to him with kindness and love? Yes. So that's the way I should treat myself, you know. And that's what this medicine does and done for me. And that's what I feel so strongly about, because I see people around me that I love separated from their soul, you know, and I really want to shake them and connect them to their soul, but I can't do it. But what I can do is I can nudge them in the direction of the medicine and let the medicine do
Yeah.
it, you know. So it's our job
Yeah.
just to plant the seeds, and once the seeds are planted, like the seed was planted in my head 2 years ago, and it took me 2 years to finally take the medicine. We're doing this conversation just now. I hope some of the people listening have seeds planted in their head now, and whether it's 1 year or 5 years or 10 years down the line, they decide to do the medicine, then our work is done, brother. You know.
Yeah, and I'm just watching the comments like pour
Mm,
in because
mm,
Daniel says ayahuasca has helped me. Daniel said something. Oh, Jacques said, Daniel, I'll go right back to you, Daniel. Jacques said the feelings I had on plant medicine at Rhythmia were feelings I always had. but for some reason I understood them in a very deep way. I remember when I was a kid, I used to connect so much with people on an emotional level. But like you said, as an adult, we're afraid to be shamed, humiliated. But when you're with ayahuasca, it seems like the veils are lifted. That's because they are. And this is the beautiful part about medicine is it's medicine for a reason. It's bitter and it's sweet. Like everybody remembers when they were sick as a kid, your mother or father would give you medicine. And you'd be like, ah, it'd be kind of like nasty for a moment. It's the same thing with plant medicine. You're going to go through the bitter to get to the sweet. And I'd love for you to talk about that, man, like the bitterness versus the sweet.
Yeah. So of the medicine, the hard parts and the easy parts, you mean the fun parts and the hard parts, is that correct?
Yeah, the bitter and the sweet, like the joy and the pain.
Yeah, so I'll talk about the hard parts. So the hard parts of the medicine for me were the physical repercussions, the purging, the being sick, the feeling like you were almost anesthetized, that you couldn't move your body. You felt vulnerable, exposed. It was very hard emotionally. You know, you would get lost in other realms and you'd be panicking, you'd be scared, you'd have maybe you'd feel anxious, you'd be very, very, I found it very hard to surrender to the medicine, especially on my first night, because I was also experiencing this for the first time. And so it was very, very hard. It felt like hard work, But then when I started to surrender to the medicine and I started to kind of just accept that I couldn't beat it, I had to just go with it. I would look at the stars and I would see the stars looking back at me, and then the stars would start dancing and I'd feel an overwhelming sense of connection to nature, to the stars. And it was such a beautiful feeling, And then I would have these visions and I'd see these beings come to me and I would feel like the healing, and I'd feel like I was in touch with other entities, and the music that was kind of guiding the energy and the spirits around the room, and then the shamans, and the beauty of it. I felt like I was in heaven on earth, and it doesn't matter how bad the experience got. It was a duality, the good was always worth the bad, and I almost embraced the bad. On the third night and the fourth night, I was kind of ready to go into battle, I wanted it to be bad because I felt that was where the healing was, I wanted to feel lost, I wanted to confront my fears, I wanted to have visions, and I wanted to experience some real depth in my visions, just because I knew that's what real healing comes from. The harder something is, the usually more rewarding it becomes. Nothing in life worthwhile is easy. To find true love, you have to kind of love yourself. You have to kind of work hard on yourself to find that. To give birth, women have to go through 9 months of carrying a baby, and then the pain and agony of giving birth, but the reward is a child.
Shout out to mothers.
Yeah, big
Shout
time,
out
man.
to mothers, man.
Big time, So that's what I feel. It's kind of like that. You have to go through the pain to get to the good stuff.
Yeah, this is my experience too, man. I had a lot of work last year, the previous year, with my father or with my mother, and this year was the medicine called me to do work on my father. So if anybody has gone through traditional therapy, talk therapy, or they've tried alternative forms of healing, you get to look into this, because the power of this, and Tim Ferriss has talked about this on his podcast multiple times, right? Having ayahuasca with a guided experience that's safe and that's allowing you to really go in is 10 years of therapy in one night. 10 years of therapy. I mean, literally conceptualize that. Like, do you want to continue to carry 10 years of shame and unprocessed emotion in your nervous system, or do you want to just face the fear? And I think the concept that resonated deep with me, man, is Meryl talked about us dancing with our fear, loving our fear. And the super trippy part is that 3 years ago on Wellness Force, I interviewed Gay and Katie Hendricks. Gay and Katie Hendricks have the Hendricks Institute. It's about body intelligence. And he said, Josh, when it comes to anxiety, it's really just a lower level of fear. When people have anxiety, they're afraid of something. And so how do we get to the bottom of what's actually there with the fear? We love the fear. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? How do we love our fear? Like, what does that even look like? And he said, the same way that you love your wife, your husband, your children, whatever it is, the fear is there to teach you something. Yeah. The fear comes up in these ceremonies, and the fear gets right there. I mean, there's nowhere to hide. This is the thing with ayahuasca. There is absolutely nowhere to hide. But I don't want to hide anymore. No. I don't want any of us to hide from this. The fear is there as a teacher, the same way as pain is a teacher. And the concept for me that resonates with what you were talking about is dancing with the fear. It's not going to be easy. Like many archetypes have talked about this. Joseph Campbell's talked about this with the hero's journey. But if we can train ourselves, if we can commit to the training and discovering process of dancing with the fear, that's the kind of life I want to live, man.
Yeah, man. Me too, man. Just jumping in. Even this today, like I've owned Educate, Inspire, Change for 6, coming on 7 years, yeah. And in the last year, there's been a lot of Facebook Lives from my page, but I would say like 100% of them have involved other people who are transformational coaches or life coaches or motivational speakers. And for that reason, I've kind of held myself back a little, feeling that there are other people who are more equipped to convey a really powerful message to my followers, you know. But like taking ayahuasca, it really made me understand that I too am important and I too have a message to give. And the only way I can overcome and become what I want to is by overcoming those fears, is by doing things like this more often, you know, and talking to people with no fear, talking from the heart, not from my head, because I used to live in my head. After taking ayahuasca, I live in my heart. So I now speak from here. I take time to breathe. I think about what I'm saying and I mean it with that heart. I want to talk to you to help you. I don't want to talk to you because I want to gain something from you, you know? And that's the space I'm coming from now. So I'm definitely going to be doing more lives myself. I want to communicate with my followers and build a community more with my own message, you know, and I want to thank you for inviting me on today, because I think having you here helps me to kind of overcome that a little bit, because there's two of us here, you know. But
Yeah.
like definitely I feel confident now to move forward and to talk to my Educate, Inspire, Change followers and even other followers and talk. I feel like I have an important message to give them, you know, not just
Yeah,
about
you
plant
do.
medicine, about other things as well, but my own personal experiences, about other knowledge. And I like to help people who are maybe feeling. I noticed Paul made a comment earlier about being depressed. He felt like he's dying, or maybe he is dying. I would say to Paul, like, do the medicine, brother. Like, do the medicine and help it to ease your pain. You know, wherever your journey is taking you, the medicine will give you what you need. You know, we're all in different places in life. We're all at different stages in life. We're all going through different pains and different issues. Whatever you need, the medicine will give you. Just have faith in the medicine. You know.
Yeah. Thank you for this reminder, brother. I loved doing this. This was so fun. I felt like we were in a coffee shop the whole time.
Yeah,
I
man.
felt like this just, and this is what people are going to chime in on.
Yeah, this is why things like Joe Rogan and podcasts working so well, because it's authenticity. You know, we were just talking totally unscripted to each other from a place of love and acceptance, and we just want to talk. You know, we want to vibe. Whereas years ago, the only way you could see this was on TV with a script and an interviewer, and it was all manufactured and false. People can tell. You know, this is a real conversation with two real people talking about
Yeah.
real experiences, and it's live, man. And there's nothing scripted whatsoever. You know, and people want this, and this is what we should give them, and it's what we are giving them. And I'm so thankful, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. And you know what? Thank you to the medicine for allowing this conversation to unfold. Like you and I wouldn't even
Yeah,
be talking if
no.
it wasn't for this ancient intelligence that brought us together. And man, I'd like to close out by saying this one thing.
Yes.
Daniel says, thanks for sharing. I'm full of gratitude for you guys. Daniel, thank you for being
Thanks,
here, man.
Daniel.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Daniel. Thanks to Amanda. Thanks to Paul. Paul, you've
Thanks.
been all over this thing. I'm sure we're going to talk to you in the thread. Karina, thank you. And if we missed anyone, thank you for being here, because
Yeah.
you only get a little bit of time on this planet. And what I wanted to close with and ask you is this concept that we had a 50-person breath work for Wellness Force in Encinitas. And a concept that came up in our training was tribe. If you go down the center of tribe, it's we are intelligence being love.
Yes.
We are intelligence being love, and tribe is in the center of that if you look at the spelling of that. And really what I think it is we're brought here on some kind of soul contract. We're unfolding and figuring out what that soul contract really is. And if we can do it from the place of love, if we can face our fears, if we can dance with our fears, if we can stay connected to our community and don't ever allow the ego to make you feel like you're alone,
yes,
we can do anything, my friend. We can do
yes,
anything. So my question for you is this.
yes,
You've done medicine, you're
yes,
publishing content, you're going to come out with so many great things in the future.
yes.
What do you see as your role with the medicine, and how do you see that uplifting and empowering Educate, Inspire, Change?
Yeah, so Educate, Inspire, Change started off very much about raising awareness on issues around the globe, you know, environmental issues, political issues. What all that's made me realize is the only answer to the world's problems are within each of us, you know. And I think that revelation is what took me towards the medicine. And now, having taken the medicine for myself, that's more apparent than ever, because the medicine shows you what's inside. And if you can heal, if we can each heal ourselves, the world around us will heal automatically, you know. So for me, I'm going to change the entire direction of my page to self-improvement, to self-love, talk much more about healing yourself, about nutrition, yoga, meditation, all these types of topics, as opposed to perhaps negative topics, which could be like, talking about world wars or famine or poverty, which certainly it's important to be aware of these things. But if the whole world could just focus on positive energy, on the love within, then those problems around you will eventually evaporate. It's like the law of attraction. You don't attract what you want, you don't attract what you need, you attract what you are. So if you can be love, if you can be that light, then automatically people around you will come towards you and they'll change as well. Even me coming home like this, my partner, my mother, my brother, my children, I've noticed a change in them because I've seen a change in myself. They fed off my energy. They now want to become better people. They now want to be healthier. They now want to be happier. They now think more open-minded. They think, wow, if this can have such a big impact on you, we want to try it, So it's really infectious. And that's what I want to now share with the world, is I want to be the change that I want to see in the world. So I'm taking the medicine. I'm going to keep taking the medicine, and I'm just going to keep following nature's path, wherever it may take me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, man. And it's a joy to connect with you. And we just happen to connect with all these people at the same time. It's funny. Like I was at my mom's house, and she turned to me just randomly one moment. She said, "You've grown up. There's something different about you. There's something so loving about you," I think she said.
Yeah. Wow.
And I attribute that to my journey, not just with Wellness Force, but through this medicine, man. So honored to be your brother on the path, honored to share with this community, and just Likewise. So excited, so thrilled that we get to be here. You guys, we get to be here. We're still here. Yeah. I'm not delineating from depression or sadness. Those things are going to happen, but connect more often with the people that you love, and let people know what that next step is, man. I know you have a lot of projects you're working on with medicine, but what's one where they can start to explore if they're watching right now?
Well, we're going to release a documentary soon. While I was in Rhythmia, we had a cameraman there filming my journey, so we're going to release a documentary. I'm also going to return to Rhythmia at some point this year, and we'll be doing some more Facebook Lives from there. So I would just ask people to keep an eye on my website, keep an eye on the content, keep an eye on my Facebook page. Feel free to message me if you want information. Just kind of watch this space, man, because we're working on all sorts of things that are really exciting, and I can't wait to share them all with you.
Woo! Hands together, head bowed. I so enjoyed this, and let us know how you're feeling in the comments. Also, too, man, I'm really stoked to be sharing some of the conversations we have with Wellness Force with your community. I think this intelligence, this discovering process with intelligence, I'm honored to share that info with this amazing community. So, my brother, thank you for being on today, and for everyone that joined us, love and wellness. I'm wishing you love and wellness.
Thank you. Take care.
Oh, that was so much fun.